Hello, good evening. We're learning Sipurei Maisius, the story of the master of prayer. Let's take a quick look at the text. We are dealing with those mistaken sects that are looking for the purpose of everything, which is a good thing. But since they're doing it after the shattering of the vessels, this means they're not connected to the tachlis. They're not connected to the seichel, and actually they're not connected to the tzaddik, because during the shattering of the vessel, what happened was that the kalim of the midos, the malchus, olam atzilus, that so they shattered and the shards fell into the level of bria in the olam abina, and the light that used to fill them has retreated, but not all the way up, but up to the Yesod, which represents the tzaddik. And the gap between the Yesod, Zeranpin, and the shards, which have fallen into the Bina in Olam Abriya, is much narrower than the Chochmah and Bina, which is the of Atzilus, which is the origin of the Seichel, the light. And the reason why the light remains in the Yesod by the Tzaddik is because the shattered vessels, they shattered for a reason. It wasn't stam. So the reason that they shatter is for their tikkun, because they need to be rectified. And if the light of the seichel will leave them, and the chasm between the seichel amiti and the tzeitzes the kedusha, the sparkles of kedusha that are in those shards of broken vessels, will be too big. The chasm will be too big, then they will get lost in the klipot. So the Sechel Eloki, the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is watching over them, as it were, from the level of the Yesod, the Atzilus, and that the Yesod is the Tzaddik. The Tzaddik was created in order to elevate the Nitzotzos, the Kedusha, the sparks of holiness that fell during the shattering of the vessels, which is the reason why the Gemara says about the tzaddik, the entire world was created for the sole purpose of being a companion to the tzaddik. That's what everybody is commanded. This is not for the benefit of the tzaddik. This is for the benefit of the neshamas, for the people. The tzaddik for himself does not need anything. Hashem, he is complete and the way it's supposed to be. So let's take a quick look at the text again. And we said before, last week, we said about the sects that decided that the main purpose of the world is honor, and anybody who seeks honor and attains honor is a quote-unquote honorable person, and therefore he's a person who has attained the tachlis, the purpose, as it were. And this particular sects mean that they are, we said they are disconnected from the Sechel Amiti. They found themselves a blind, mute gypsy that was very angry all the time. We spoke about this at length the last week. So this week we are going to move on to the second sect. So one sect said that honor is not the main purpose. Second, if you don't mind, I have to. So we said that this one sect, this is the second sect we're talking about, said that honor is not the main purpose. And they probed, and they came to the conclusion that the ultimate purpose is murder, Wally. And their rationale was because we see that all things perish and die off, and everything upon the earth, grasses, plants, people, and everything that is in the whole world, everything needs to come to an end in death. Hence, the ultimate purpose of everything is destruction and death. That was their maskana, they deducted this is, so therefore a murderer who lo aleinu kills and destroys people, and thus greatly bringing the world closer to its purpose. Therefore, they agreed among themselves that the ultimate purpose, lo aleinu, is murder. And they search for some man, a man who was a murderer, and an angry person, and a very vengeful person. Because such a person is closest to the purpose according to their perverted ideas. And therefore he ought to be king. And they went searching, and they heard screaming. So they asked, what is this screaming? So they answered, in other words, someone, whoever it is, answered them, this screaming was because someone had slaughtered his father and his mother. These people are blown away. Is there more strong-hearted and angry murderer than this, that he murders his own father and mother? As far as they're concerned, this man has attained the ultimate purpose. And he pleased them. And they accepted him as king over them. And they sought for themselves a land that engenders a murder, i.e., the people there turn in order to murder. And they selected for themselves a place of mountains and hills where murderers abide, and they went there and settled there with their king. This is the second sect, Shemirachim. So, as we all know, that the Derech HaOlam, the way that the world is It's called Alim Gvar, anybody, the one who is more powerful, that's the one that prevails. And the mighty prevail, and the world belongs to them, as it were. And the weak ones, the weaklings, being dragged, at the end of the road, and they become a burden on the healthy tzibur, the olam. And also we see in the nature of the bria, they see that the strong ones are pushing the weak ones until they finish them off, and completely, because there's no existence for the very weak ones. That's why everything that is in the world, they hold that as long as it doesn't bring any more toyelas to the world, there's no benefit to the world, they feel that it has to be discarded, it has to be murdered. The same thing exists when two people argue with one another, and one disturbs the other. And the strong one is the main one, and he can kill the weak one, because the world belongs to the strong ones. And anybody who can kill the other one, he exists, he's the one that survives. That's why they came to the conclusion that it's good for the world to deal with killings and with murders, because that way, they call the weaklings, it's like a, quote unquote, the natural selection, and the strong ones will prevail, and the weak ones that disturb, will be done away with. Now, I don't have to tell you, obviously, that there are nations in the world that the whole view on the world is like that. The Japanese, for instance, they have a very similar outlook on death. They actually combined honor and death, at the same time. And their whole point of view is the world is just a dream within a dream, and a dewdrop within a dewdrop, and they have many, many fancy names of deifying and sanctifying murder. They don't just kill, they do it poetically. They do it with a great amount of dignity and art. I don't know, you probably know, there's a book called The Five Rings that has become the like the Bible of Japan, corporate Japan in the 1990s. So the person, the samurai that wrote The Five Rings, was what you would call later on in the 19th century, in the Wild West in America, a gunslinger, except he wasn't a gunslinger, he was slinging a sword. That's around the 1500s to the 1600s, I'm not sure, in feudal Japan. And the thing is that they would go, and these gunslingers would seek each other out and challenge them for a duel. And by the time that this particular killer retired, he has won, obviously every single duel, because otherwise he'd be dead. He has killed 68 people. And then he retired and he became a monk, and he furnished his own academy. And believe it or not, he is called the Saint of the Sword. It's pretty rich, right? Anyhow, so there you go, a nation that sanctifies Ritzicha and murder. But Reb Nosson says that, you have it all over. You have with The Godfather, glorifying the mafia, and you have places like in Sicily where this thing is like it's a very mountainous place that breeds murderers and so forth. You can see that. But the Wilson says in Likutei Halachos, Ichos Tefillah Halacha Dalet, that included in that concept of deifying a murder is also people who are not mamish killers. They have a certain bechina of murder. There's a certain aspect of murder. They are baalei machlokes and hatred, and they persecute people to the point until they mamish, they impoverish it. You can find this in government ministries. When they decided to persecute somebody, they finish him off. It's also bechina of Ritzicha. And this is something which is very common, and furthermore, what is also included in the world, and it's very prevalent, is the fact that a person is actually killing himself, as it were, because of despair. He sees himself as a weak person who is not able to advance in her life the way he wants to. Until he decides there's no more hope. He has no hope to ascend and to be Matzliach. So he falls into despair. So either Chas v'Chalila, he actually kills himself, or Chas v'Chalila, he kills himself with Chlishas Hadas. He gets demoralized, and he puts himself down, and he's like derating himself, saying that I'm not worth anything, and there's no place in the world for me. And it says over there in the Halacha. So there is a nekuda of emes that is, as we said, the Eden of honor. There's a nekuda of emes that the kol of Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's the purpose of everything. There's also a nekuda of emes of this svara, because in kedusha there is an union of anger and nekama, which is a big mitzvah. It says in the prophet in Nachum, Kel Kana V'Noikim. Hashem, this is the Dalet Misas based it. It's a mitzvah to punish somebody that was mechav misa by them. It's a great tikkun to all the oilers, and because it is through this mitzvahs of Dalit mitzvahs based in, Hashem should save us from that, that people are miyachad the 4 letters of Shem Havayim and the 4 letters of Shem Adli and other big yichudim, big tikkunim, elyonim, which are being done. But by then, when it falls to somebody who is not connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is not connected to the, so they totally turned over Divrei Elokim Chaim, following their timings. I don't have to tell you, that it is such a pashut thing by the world. It used to be that moral propriety, has to do with taiva. It used to be something that, people spoke about it, but they spoke about it in like alluding to it. It was, with hints, with inference, but killing. This is something that is, people, show out loud, wide openly, and as if, their paintings and their sculptures and during the time of the Second World War, nobody would show, except if they were, really Misa magazines. But the pictures of dead people, concentration camps, or whatever, they would show it, as if it's like an open thing. As it's a big time in this Indian, and there you have the whole, whole religion here in this world. It holds that to kill all those who don't believe in their religion is a huge mitzvah, not only to kill those people, but to kill themselves killing those people. So they went from Svara to Svara until they said that murder itself is a mitzvah. That's the toughest. And so what it is, what they did is they're looking for a person who is a murderer, and is a very angry person, and Baal Kinner is very envious. Because the truth is that murder does not come because a person is looking for tikkun olam, no matter what kind of excuses he's giving. It comes because of jealousy. Most people are in a state of great anger, and they're jealous of the other. He has pardasa, he has a good pardasa, he has a beautiful home, he has nice shidduchim, but they feel that they are low, they're worthless, and they would really love to kill anybody along their way. But, they're afraid, they don't want to be punished. Then there are those who are hot-headed, they're not even afraid. So they actually kill and take out of the way anybody who's standing along the way and disturbs them. All this comes from kina, jealousy, and anger. That's Resichas Adomim, the boiling of the blood. What that does, that takes away the moich and the das of a person. And when the person doesn't have a moich, he becomes a killer, he becomes a murderer. So they said, okay, such a person will be closer to Tachlis, they said. He should be a Melech, and they found his screen. They said, what it is, it's a person who slaughtered Lo Aleinu, his mothers and father. When it comes to tell us, why would Rabbeinu tell us such a thing? We need to know that somebody is Shem Yerachim. So I said, what would be the reason for Rabbeinu to tell us that they hear a big scream, and he says the person that murdered his father and mother, Shem Yerachim. When Rabbeinu comes here to tell us and to hint and to infer to us is each and every one of us is within, is steeped in the nakuda of kas, of anger, and retzicha. Most of us are far too feeble to actually act on it. So what we do is we appease people, but that's not because we're not angry, we're just afraid. And we seem, we're very timid, but that does not mean that there's a heart full of anger and envy inside the heart. It's a natural state of being. The reason why it's a natural state of being, because a person was created to achieve the highest madrigas. And when we see somebody achieving this, or we think that he has achieved this, we have this regesh, this feel of jealousy and nekama, because we ought to do it. We have to reach those madrigas ourselves. I mean, yeah, when we lose the moichin, we're upset that somebody else has more than us, in a physical sense, in material sense. But Lamaisi, kina suffering and jealousy is a very, very big thing. When Rabbeinu comes to teach us that the tikkun for anger and retzicha, it's not just being angry. It's not just about this whole thing that we catch ourselves in. Rabbeinu says that the tikkun to this is etza'aka, a great scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the only thing that can bring back the moichin. If you remember, when we spoke about the Gibor, about the mighty warrior that has the sword that has three forces, three powers. If you lift it up, it slaughters the generals and commanders of the opposing army. And one side, defeats them, and the other side make them sick, and all their flesh falls off them. And we explained that this Indian, that when a person is disconnected from the seichel, whenever it is that we feel anger, whenever we feel jealousy, it is because we are disconnected from the seichel amiti, from the real wisdom. And being that we are disconnected from the real wisdom, the only thing that we can do is use the first koyach of this sword, which is lifted up, which is screamed to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That annihilates the Chabad Chochmah Bina Das of the Klipa, of the enemy, and it brings about to you your own Chochmah Bina Das, your own Seichel. And that is the only refuah to the Midas Akas and Midas Akina. Mitzvah Hashem, Wednesday night, we have the Seder, Mitzvah Hashem. Pesach is coming. It's a tremendous night in which HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim in one fell swoop during the Seder night. All the lights, all the moichin come at once, even though we have no kelim for them. Because Bnei Israel in Egypt, and this is therefore, analogous to us, fell in 49 gates of Tumah. the 50th gate, and Bnei Israel fell into that gate, they would have never come out of Mitzrayim. The 50th gate of Tumah is heresy, apicorsis. And it says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hastened to take Bnei Israel out of Mitzrayim, to the point that their dough could not leaven, could not become chometz. So how long does it take for a dough, to leaven, to become chometz? So when we make matzah, we hold 18 minutes, but lemaisa, the madrega lakula is 25 minutes. What this is telling us is something astonishing. It means that we were 25 minutes away from eternal annihilation if Hashem Yisborach wouldn't have taken us out of Mitzrayim. 25 minutes more, finito la commedia. That's it. Story's over. That's all she wrote. Ad kedei kach, it came to the last moment. And we spoke on Shabbos on the achana that we need to do. And we said that the achana that we can do, we have to do some kind of achana. We said that on Shabbos Agonu, we tied the lamb to the leg of the bed. In other words, we have acted counterintuitively against what we were afraid of, which is the Egyptians, who were our masters. And the lamb was their deity. And for 4 days, they saw the deity tied to the bed. They asked them, what was it? We said, we're going to slaughter it. We're going to eat it. And they couldn't do anything. We all know people who control others through anger. It is a very common thing. People get angry, they see that it works, and they use it. When we are intimidated, we are paralyzed. We need to do something against this fear. So you can ask, what are you talking about? If I'm afraid, how can I do something against it? The answer is, obviously, you scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But once you call out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, call out someone you trust, a friend, family member, somebody who is not emotionally involved in your own fears, and say, I need help. I know I need to do this, and whatever it is, and I'm scared. And can you give me chizuk? And you will get it. And B'ezrat Hashem, you see that, all the monsters, they grow in the dark. Especially the monsters that are under the bed, and, the coat that is hung on the hanger, and the light of the moon comes into the window and throws a shadow of a monster on the wall. When you flip on the light, they all disappear. But we need to do something. We need to do an action, which is counter the fear. We have a Seder, we have things to do, preparations to still complete, and we can feel, oh man, this is like totally beyond me. I can't do it. I have a cold, I have a this, I have a that. Look at me, Rahmanas. Call out HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please help me do this, help me do that, help me get on. Do you feel that you're still a prisoner in that vice? So scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't need to scream it out loud. You can scream it, without voice. You can scream it in your mind. Scream out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And B'ezrat Hashem, this is what the Israel did. They screamed out from the work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu heard. And he took us out from Mitzrayim. B'ezrat Hashem, I want to wish all of you should have a Chag Kasher v'Sameach, and I wish a Yom Tov, and B'ezrat Hashem, it will be, Reb Nosson says, saying the Haggadah out loud is Tikkun HaBris, is Tikkun HaKloli. Reb Nosson used to have, when he would say the Seder, when Reb Nosson, Zchutek v'Tezalel Ayinu, Beinu Moranat, when he would make the Seder, his face was covered, and he was facing the wall, away from the table, and his face was red. And when he would say, the Seder with unbelievable, loud tza'okas, and whatever he would say, B'Bora Godol, Zogilo Shechina, the great Bora is revelation of the Shechina, he would faint each time. B'ezrat Hashem, we should all be zoicha, this Indian of, is a difference between the eating on Pesach, the eating of the mitzvah, eating of matzah, and the Indian of eating on Shabbos. Rabbeinu says that when you eat on Shabbos, all the eating is kula kodesh, that it all goes after the kedusha. And Rabbeinu held a piece of matzah. It wasn't very special. It wasn't really, Yehuda, but it was a matzah. It was a kosher matzah. Rabbeinu says when you're holding a matzah, you're holding godliness, which means the difference between the eating of Shabbos Kodesh is that the kedusha is in the consumption, in the act of eating, but the food is just regular food. But on Pesach, the food itself is holy. The matzah is a likus. The 4 cups of wine are pure godliness. The karpas, the morar, the charoises, every single thing of the Suda is kula kodesh, kula likus. Jibor shel ben shesh or b'ezrat Hashem, in Chag Kosher v'Sameach, with a lot of simcha, b'ezrat Hashem, we'll be zoichi to see Vias Mashiach Tzidkenu b'ezrat Hashem, v'kol b'yabeinu amen.